This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Swarovski Optic. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Swarovski Optic, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems.
Gentlemen, we've got Mr. Bone on tonight, and we've got the legend of Wild TV, Mr. Joe Eppele. Joe, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you back, brother.
Oh, man, good to be back. Thank you very much. Good to see you guys. Been a long time coming. And I have to say, for an intro to, we're doing this as a bit of a late night meeting right here, to start it out with Mr. Bone. That is just about the best intro line you can give a guy, I think.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm quite all right with that.
I thought you said that was the one thing that was off limits.
Well, I guess everything's out the door now. Here we go.
It's all on the table. Let's go.
So I never get to talk to Jesse. I never get to talk to Joe. We got a podcast for this. It's well, at least we're getting to chat. And these are always the fun ones too. When you get a couple of, I consider you my buddies. I'm sure I'm the guy behind my back. You're like, hey, he's not my buddy. But
those are big words. Real quick out of the gate, Kyle.
The one thing that's a little lacking here is I don't have any adult beverages. You guys got anything good going on?
It's kind of funny. I poured water in my mug right here, and I came down, and my wife's like, do you have a drink? You're going down to do a podcast. Do you have a drink? And I was like, it's actually water. For once, it's water. So I guess we're all on our best behavior tonight. It's a week.
We're in season, Kyle. We got to stay.
Yeah.
We got to stay on it. Season's
Sheep
not
shape.
over.
Nobody has any beverages during season. Everybody knows that, right?
I will say that there's 2 sheep down with 2 of us on this podcast. So I'm not so worried about sheep shape these days. I'm just saying, Jesse. No, just saying.
I don't want to talk about it.
You've still got 3 days left. So
Well, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. So Joe, welcome to the podcast. Awesome to have you back. And you don't really need any introductions. You've been on the podcast a ton here. You've been on, I think it's been about 18 months. I haven't looked back, but it's been a while. But what's going on in the world of the Edge? What's going on with Joe? You had a pretty freaking epic year, I'm understanding.
Yeah, the season so far is off to a pretty good start on my end over here. I think I'm recording my 5th season with the show now. It's kind of crazy how fast it's blown by. But yeah, I've been with the show now for 5 seasons. Jesse has actually been in the field with me a few times this year, filming some stuff with me, which has been a lot of fun. What have I been up to? I started out the year, I was out with Ben Storak. We were doing some cougar hunting along the Fraser there. We ended up not harvesting. We had some opportunities, but didn't harvest a cat on that trip. It's still a great trip. The idea is to pull a sheep killer out of the hills there. So we're being very selective on that one, but I'll go back out later this season, finish that off. Then I headed down to Texas on an archery aoudad with Mr. Aaron Snyder. You guys have had him on the show quite a few times, I believe. So him and I had a great hunt down there, and we harvested a great ram. He's actually this guy right here. So I had a bunch of fun there. And then Jesse and I went on a bit of an elk hunt that didn't pan out quite so well to kick the season off. We had a fun hunt. It was just a challenging one. And then headed north, way north, northern BC. And that's when things really started to get interesting. The goal for the trip was caribou, mountain caribou. But it was a really slow start, and to kick things off, I ended up taking 3 wolves out of the area. We had seen a ton of wolves out there, so I was able to pull 3 wolves out of the area. Got myself a decent stone sheep ram, which was a bit of a bonus for the trip. I think we're going to chat about him a little bit tonight. And then to cap it all off at the tail end of the hunt, when things were getting real tough and sticky, and we were starting to wonder if we were just burning days up there, kind of in a picture perfect fairy tale finish to the hunt, we got a beautiful mountain caribou. So certainly no complaining on my end. The freezers are looking great right now. And I mean, we're sitting in October, so there's still plenty of time left on the clock this fall.
So, okay, there's a lot to unpack there, but
just a little bit.
Let's rewind it here. So let's talk elk. Now there's a story there, and how does that involve Jesse? And I knew Jesse being on here was a good thing. I didn't know why, but now I think we're going to find out.
Yeah, Jesse actually, we linked up. We've been chatting for a while, and he came out and did some filming for me on the elk hunt. And that man is a savage behind the camera, and I have to give him a ton of credit because, as Jesse learned very quickly and very early in the hunt, I'm a bit of a boneheaded brute when it comes to hiking in the hills. And if I get excited, or I get, if the coffee gets in my veins early in the morning, it can make for a really long day. But, we got out there 2 days before season kicked off, before archery kicked off, and we were seeing bulls everywhere. And as you know, archery season's any bull out in the Kootenays where we were, and we were seeing like 6 points left and right. And I mean, we're just sitting there going, "Kate, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. Things are going to happen." And then poof, it's like somebody flicked the switch on the lights. Opener came, and it was a ghost town. We hunted hard. We covered a lot of ground. But we did find some bulls, just couldn't quite get in close enough to close the deal. It was really weird behavior for that area. Like the bulls were still, bachelor grouped up and things like that, which is something that we didn't quite expect at all. And then we did get a few opportunities that were pretty close. We got into 40 yards on one big dandy bull, like still hunting like you would blacktail, and he was with a full herd and was ready to come to full draw. He was just behind a branch, just wasn't confident in my ability to sneak a ethical shot through the trees at him. You can always fling an arrow and kind of hope for the best, but waiting for him to clear this branch, and then didn't notice that there was a cow and calf at 8 yards between us, and they busted us. And Jesse and I sat there on the side of the road crying like little girls for a bit.
Yeah, we did go up. We did climb up and have a good long nap up at the top of the mountain after that. I think we both needed that. But yeah, I will say about the scouting though, Joe, like I've come to not like scouting now because your hopes get so high. Like we were like, oh, this is going to happen. It's like, Jesse, you got a tag. I'm going to tag out soon. We'll get you one, blah, 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 all this big talk. And then as soon as it's like they know exactly the day, and then they just go quiet and they disappear. Our hopes were so high with scouting. There was just like, oh my gosh, this is a mecca. It's going to be amazing.
And we were so excited. We're like, why haven't we come out early on hunts before to scout 2 days early? Like, this is the smartest thing we could have done. All we got to do is sit by that tree this morning, and boom, we'll be tagged out in no time. And then, yeah, I mean, it was a heartbreaker. And the number one thing we said is just don't get our hopes up because, things can change. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't expect us to be turning down like nice bulls coming in, because like it just wasn't looking good on camera or whatever. Just everything seemed like it was going to play out perfectly. And then, we came home with our tails between our legs.
Well, I think because it was, we were 12 days, 2 days of scouting. The last day though, we had at least some like repertoire with a couple bulls. So it was like, of course, the last day we were hunting, and it like turns on, and then we have to go the next day.
That last day, to say, was an interesting day. It was our hottest action in the hills, definitely for bulls. They were starting to bugle. They were fired up. They were running cows. But I probably had one of my dumbest moments before a hunt. So Jesse and I were out there hunting with one of my good buddies, Kent Fraser. And we jump in the truck and we start driving to the trailhead. And we're going to get there well before dark so we can hike in. And we had just kind of checked the weather on our local weather apps, and it didn't say anything. It said overcast. We're like, okay, fine. And then Jesse goes, well, hey guys, I didn't bring my rain gear today because, the weather looks good. And then Kent goes, yeah, I didn't bring any rain gear anyways. And I'm driving the truck, and I got my rain gear in my backpack. And I'm like, well, if you guys didn't bring your rain gear, don't worry. I'll leave my gear in the truck out of solidarity. And I'm telling you, like 15 minutes from the truck, the clouds opened up and it was torrential downpour to the point where, as we mentioned, we had a lot of action. As we're standing there watching the bulls across from us and we're getting right in it, the water was pouring down my back and overflowing my boots. Like it was pouring down my back, down my crack, down the backs of my legs, into my boots.
Yeah, I was freaking out too because I didn't have my rain cover on the camera or anything, so it just started to rain. Always have every camera guy always has a garbage bag with them, so I grab a garbage bag, just throw it over the camera, and we're like, hustle. This is of course the last day, so we're not like, oh, let's go back and whatever that way. It's just like we're going, and we're going up, and we're just getting wet, just getting soaked to the bone, and then we get up to where we kind of the upper range where the elk are, and Joe is just like completely focused on nothing but getting close to those elk. And we see them and it's foggy and it's dark, so there's like an opportunity to close the distance. And I'm here like soaking wet, both like all me and Kent are kind of like freaking out because it's at that like safety level of wet and cold. But obviously we're starting. We're not going to like turn around. We've climbed up. We're going. And I just remember I told Joe, I'm like, I got to get my rain cover on or I'm not going to be able to shoot anything. He's like, pull your phone. Where's it? And I'm like filming with my phone and it's pouring rain. And then I was just like, okay, I said, I got to go put my rain cover on. I just went and found a tree. And of course, Joe didn't wait for me. He went straight up to where he could see the elk. And I'm just like, fighting pine needles and like throwing my jacket off and I'm freezing cold. I'm trying to put a rain cover on when it's pouring. It's just like, it's insane. So I take the garbage bag off my rain cover, it's more fitted to the camera so I can zoom, I can hit all my buttons, my hands go inside this rain cover. It's like what I need to film an episode in the pouring rain. And so I do this like under a tree branch where it's just like any little thing, like any little drop that gets inside on the buttons can impact how it goes. If you get moisture in the inside of the rain cover, then it's going to fog up. You're going to have issues. So it's just like super stressed. I kind of just said, F it. I need to go into this tree and just do this. I did it. And then as I'm walking up closer to where I know Kent and Joe are, I can hear the mics coming in. The mics coming in my earpieces. They go, oh, there he is. Okay. Come on, Jesse, let's go. I'm like, just like hustling with the camera. And then I finally get up to him and we get to a spot where we can see. But then we're behind trees along this road and we get to where those trees basically provide us cover, the closest we can get to the elk. If we go out past these trees, then we're going to be, they're going to see us and they're going to, know that we're there. So we can't go any further. We have to sit in the rain. All three of us are soaked to the bone, like to the like hypothermic bone, and we can't move. So I'm like rocking back and forth with my feet just to try to like get some movement. Kent's just like, screw you guys. He's walking like back down the road, up and down behind the trees to try to stay warm. And we're just like, I can't remember, how long did we stand there for, Joe? At least an hour.
I think it was close to an hour and a half, hour 45 of just. So we were probably, I think we were between 500 and 400 yards across a draw from them, but they were on this open slide area where, and where we were on this road, we were protected in that one spot. But as soon as we moved too much either direction, we were going to be completely busted. So we had to wait until a bit of fog cover came up before we could move and try and get in on them. But that was a good test for you, Jesse, and you passed. So I know I'm stubborn enough to ride it out, and you didn't pack up and go home. So you get a feather in your cap for that one. As I mentioned, well, I'm just a little bullheaded, as you alluded to, just, very, very subtly there.
Well, I mean, those situations, if you're moving and your heart rate's going and you're generating heat, you can get through typically. Or you can survive it, but that like standing there and not being able to move or just like sitting in the cold wet, that was like a mental battle for sure. But we got through it. And that's when we did, kind of close some distance because fog moved in. Kent was off doing cow calls and I can't remember. I think he was just cow calling. and we did get a bull come in real close. He like came to the edge. Get it? The edge. And and he came to the edge of the brush, but he didn't come through. He didn't show himself, and then everything went quiet. And then we went to the top of the mountain, and Kent was like, "Okay, it's fire time." And then we made a fire, and then the sun came out, and we got all dry and happy, and it was good. But yeah, it was that's one I'll remember for a long time.
And that was your first, if I remember correctly. So I promised you when we headed up there, I was like, man, we're going to get into screaming matches. I've never been on an archery elk hunt before and not gotten like proper screaming matches where you're going back and forth. Normally a few with some immature bulls and then, whatever, having some fun. So I was just like, man, you're going to love this. And I failed on that promise for the first 90% of the trip. That was the first day where we had some proper bugles going off like right next to us, and it didn't happen for us. We didn't connect, but I remember turning around and looking at you, and it was just like you were a kid in a candy shop. And it was kind of fun being a part of that, seeing your reaction to it, because there's nothing that compares to that, getting a pissed off bull screaming in your face. I mean, other than seeing them actually come out in the open, that's probably the best part. Without getting to that part of the hunt. Yeah, no, it was an absolute blast. But I'm actually packed up. I'm leaving. I'm heading back out there tomorrow to go try it.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could come with you, but can't make that one.
So, from a show perspective, something like that, do you make a show out of it, or you don't get a kill shot, or you don't even you don't harvest something? Is it a throwaway? Is it kind of like, oh, okay, well, be real, we need to run something. You'd run it if you had to, but as a general rule, you wouldn't run it. How does it work from a production perspective?
From a production perspective, we try not to. Obviously, you don't want to have a no kill episode, but for my stuff, like I'll run up to 1 to 2 no kill episodes a year. From my end, as long as there's something we can talk about that's educational, or it's still a strong episode, there's strong content in this hunt. Although it didn't work out, even if, say, I'm going back out to finish the episode tomorrow, hopefully, for a week, but even if I don't connect, I think there's enough from the hunt that's educational. People can learn from it. And I think it's a real angle. We don't always connect. It's even though there's a camera with us and we're a TV show, we're not superheroes. Like, I'm just some small town kid that's out there hunting like anybody else. Right. So, but I mean, let's be real. There's kind of contractual obligations, expectations from our partners, and expectations from our viewers. We wouldn't run a full episode, like a full season of no kills. So we will run a few, but we can't do too many. No.
Okay. So now let's say you were successful on that hunt and Jesse screwed the pooch and he didn't make it there for the kill shot. How many no kill shot episodes can you run? Like, can you, obviously if you kill an animal, you're probably going to do something with it, but if you didn't get the kill shot on camera, what are the consequences of something like that?
Yeah, for a full season, like if there's absolutely no kill on a hunt, I would say for the entire show, so between Steve and I on the show, we'd probably do a maximum of 3 no kill episodes for the season. And they would have to be like, that third one would have to be a rocker, like a real good episode. Otherwise, it's probably just kind of one each that we would do a no kill episode. And it's not that we're trying to lie and say, oh, we kill in every hunt. It's just the expectation of our viewers, the expectation from our partners. We have that pressure to kind of have X number of successful hunts in the field a year.
But how? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify. I think the question was more, if I miss the kill shot, but you still kill an animal, does that still suffice? Is that right, Kyle?
Yeah, I guess how important is it to get the kill? Like, you're obviously going to run the episode if you don't get the kill shot, right? But it'd be really bad if you never had any kill shots, I guess. Eh?
Yeah. We typically really try to aim to make sure the animal's in frame for that portion of it. I went to Argentina last year and I had a stag in my crosshairs and I did not pull the trigger because my cameraman could not confirm that he had it in frame, because he was to the right of me and there was a tree in front of him. He had no idea what I was talking about. Meanwhile, I have this gorgeous royal 6x6 stag at 40 yards in front of me, head down feeding, that we had just happened to come across. So It seems to have quite a bit of weight. To be perfectly honest, I think nowadays with the way that the story's told, as long as we can get certain emotions and things like that in the show, I don't think the kill shot is as important as it used to be. It seems like viewers aren't as trapped on that. It's a lot more about the whole story and the experience, but we still do our best to capture every moment, highs and lows. But at the same time, even if the cameraman can't get up there, as you'll hear later on this call, I've gotten a little handy with self-filming as well. So um, that's kind of part of it. It adds a bit more on the hunt, but I can be quick on the draw with some of these new fandangled cameras and apps and attachments to get stuff on spotting scopes and film.
Right on. Okay, so I'm going to throw a scenario at you. So you're on a mule deer hunt, and you know that there's an abundance of mule deer. You're going to kill a mule deer. It's a given, right? So you're going to kill.
Never say that.
But
especially when filming.
It's a slam dunk. You're going to kill a 140-inch mule deer for sure if you want to. But there's a 180-inch mule deer there. So you're on a 180-inch mule deer, and you lose the cameraman. He's not in position. You can't get the kill shot. Are you going to sacrifice that big deer and for a kill shot on a 140-inch mule deer later, or are you going to kill a 180-inch mule deer and miss the kill shot? So and of course nothing's ever guaranteed, right? So but it's almost a slam dunk. You're basically guaranteed you'd kill a 140, and you probably are going to guarantee to get it on camera as well. So what do you do in that scenario? I guess the question I have for you is, you see this killer mule deer, and you're going to be able to get one, but the cameraman's not there for that 180-inch. Do you kill it or not?
I'm going to piss off some sponsors at that point, Kyle. And under it all, I am a guy that loves to hunt and loves the career I'm in right now because it gives me the opportunity to go on these hunts and these experiences. But let's not kid ourselves. Like, I'm a hunter through and through, and I'm there to get the job done. So if I see an animal of a lifetime, absolutely. I did mention earlier, I passed on a stag in Argentina. It was a good stag. It wasn't it was a nice stag. I did not pull the trigger. I thought we had more time. If I had thought that the animal was spooked and going to take off, I probably still would have shot in that moment. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm a hunter. I just happen to have a camera guy with me a lot of the time.
Okay, so that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And for me, I always find it interesting talking to hunting celebrities, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I always try and understand the logic in that scenario. Like, for me, it's just about the hunt, because I couldn't film myself under any scenario, and I've tried, and it's hopeless, right? So I don't even try. So with that in mind, I always find, with you personally, Joe, do you find that it changes the way? Well, it obviously changes the way you hunt. Does it change the level of enjoyment? Does it make it more enjoyable trying to film it? Because it's that much more difficult. It's it's hard to, and people switch weapons. They go from rifle to maybe a muzzleloader or to a bow or something to make it that much more challenging. Is it the same with camera work and having a show?
It's yeah, I'll say I'm 5 years in now, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I did at the beginning. I would be lying to you if I said it's as enjoyable as when I get to go on a solo hunt for myself. It's not. There's a lot more going through my mind with regards to filming opportunities, making sure if I'm going in on an animal now, all of a sudden I have to make sure that we're getting in to a spot where I can have 2 or 3 people with me versus just one person closing in on an animal. One of the things I really love about hunting is getting out and fully disconnecting. It's like one of those places that you can kind of it's like you completely disconnect to reconnect when you're out hunting. Like, you start noticing things you don't see when you're hunting on your own, and you kind of get in this rhythm with nature. It sounds cheesy, but you get in this rhythm with nature when you're out there, and you feel like you're really connected. I will say that when I'm hunting and filming, it's sometimes difficult to get fully in that kind of Zen state or that flow, because you are thinking of, like, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what's happening in this moment? How can I make sure the viewers at home, like, I can share this experience with people so they can feel like they were here? What should I be describing to them about the process that's happening? So I don't get to just go out there, shut up, and focus on my hunt and go through the process. I have to go through the process. I have to describe it on camera. I have to break it down, make sure we're stopping talking to the camera enough, doing all of that. So it definitely does weigh on you. And to be perfectly honest, like it's like I said, I'm enjoying it a lot more now. It is a big burden. It's a lot of pressure as well when you go out there, because I mentioned, like, I'm expected to film a minimum like 6 successful hunts a year. That's a lot, and I still have a full-time job. I still have a wife and kid at home. So it's a lot of pressure, and it stresses you out. But I mean, early on, I'd come home from a hunt. My wife would see me and be like, "You're stressed." I'd come home from a hunt that I was just on with cameraman and a great hunt, and my wife would be like, "You're too stressed. You need to go hunting." And she would send me off on my own for a few days, so I could get my true, like, peaceful hunt in, where I get to fully disconnect and be out there. So it changes the experience in a big way, but I've come to really enjoy it and really love it. And being with certain, that sounds really weird, but what I'm about to say, but being with certain cameramen or being in the field with certain cameramen can really change how much pressure goes along with that as well. So like a skilled cameraman can really take a lot of pressure off of you, rather than me always having to look at them and say, "Hey, film me, let's do a check-in." Like Jesse was great. He was probing me a lot. Like, "Hey, Joe, what's happening right now?" Sometimes too much. There's
I got
one
told to
time
shut
where
up a few times.
there's one time where I cussed him out, and I was like, "We'll talk about this in a second."
I was like, "What? This is our job. You're supposed to talk to me right now." Okay,
yeah.
cool.
It's a fine line, but yeah, no, it changes the experience quite a bit.
So you talked about 5 years ago, kind of the stress of it coming home from the hunt. Do you find now it's got to the point where I wouldn't call it easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier? It's like it's kind of almost second nature now for you, or not really? It's still a lot of work.
If I'm being fully honest, it's probably half and half. The hunt itself, the process, the preparation, going out there, that side of it all doesn't bother me as much. Understanding when I should be checking in, and being able to, it sounds weird, but being able to be more authentic on camera comes more naturally now. Early on, you kind of have this pressure in your mind of what you think you're supposed to be saying, whereas now I can be much more organic with it. But I will say there's a pressure with being 5 years in the industry. You can't make some of those rookie mistakes you made early on. So each year you're in the industry, you're kind of, whether I'm just doing it to myself or whether it actually is happening, it feels like you hold yourself to a higher standard year after year.
I would say too, with the pressure, and kudos to you, Joe, about, the majority of the hunts that you do are all self-guided, or you have friends that give you intel somewhere and you have to kind of go and figure it out. Not all of them you're showing up and there's a guide that says, "Okay, we're going over here. Okay, that's not working. Let's go over there." The lack of guided hunts that you do and still able to accomplish what you do is commendable. It's an extra layer of hard work that I don't think other hunting celebrities, as we're calling them, have. But just a kudos to you for that extra layer of hard work, because I've seen it firsthand, and it's a grind. It's not just, you don't just have to show up and hike up the mountain. There's a lot more complex issues at play that you have to deal with.
Well, thank you, Jesse. I certainly appreciate that. And I will say the term hunting celebrity makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but I will say, like you alluded to it, I do have a lot of good friends. I've been hunting for a while, so yes, a lot of my hunts aren't guided. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy unguided hunts more. Personally, I would do all that way if I had more time in my schedule. But at the same time, it is nice going on, a guided horseback hunt from time to time. That's always nice. But yeah, I am fortunate. I get friends. I've hunted with a lot of friends, and we'll kick around ideas, and I can call up some pretty good buddies and go over maps and say, "Hey, what do you guys think about this for this season? This is what I'm trying to accomplish." And I have a pretty good group of guys behind me that we can sit down and come up with some cool ideas. So I certainly am not doing it 100% on my own, and I would never claim to do that. So, but yeah, no, it's a lot of fun out there, and yeah, you saw it. It's not without stressful moments.
That's true. Okay, I want to hear about your sheep story.
Oh, my sheep.
Isn't there wolves in there in between, or is it? Do you go straight to?
Well, that's
straight to
sheep? No, Yeah, I guess I can kind of give a bit of an intro to it. So the goal for me this year was I've been wanting to go on a caribou hunt for it's been a dream of mine for a long time, but I probably started putting some weight behind it 3 years ago. And I was actually looking at doing a guided hunt for caribou, had it booked, and then the outfitter, um, it was some stuff to do with the caribou numbers in the area. They were losing their quota. They could hold on to the one tag for me to come up and do the hunt, but then it would impact some of the stuff going on with the wolves in the area. So ultimately, I said, let's let the caribou tag go and we'll do a different hunt. But I've been wanting to do it for a while. Finally, put it all together for this year. Got up there, and there was no caribou to be seen at all. We were hiking around like madmen, but there was wolves like rats. We were seeing wolf sign everywhere, across this one entire migratory like corridor, this basin, this valley. I on multiple days would see like bits and pieces of it. We ended up figuring out what they were doing is there was a pack of wolves and they would set up on these high points across this entire, they kind of created this net in a line across this entire corridor, and they would set up, and then if something walked through, they would break off and start flanking whatever came through there. So once we kind of got an idea of what was happening, we decided to try our hand and reduce the numbers there a little bit. And yeah, as we mentioned earlier, I was able to pull 3 wolves out of the area. One day we actually got stalked by 2 of the wolves. They broke off from their formation and tried to flank us. I wasn't able to get a shot at them that day because of the weather, but one day I shot one. It was a bit of a long poke. I don't know if I should mention how far of a shot it was because some people might call it unethical, but I've done some pretty long range shooting courses, and it was a wolf in a stationary position. And okay, I'll say it. I shot the wolf at 933 yards, which is a long poke for a wolf.
That's a long shot. He
But
must have been pretty small.
it was, yeah, I mean, but I was really anchored and I was set up well,
Nice.
and conditions were good enough that I felt confident in the shot, and I took the shot, and we got the one wolf down. And I'll be honest, it was later that day that I got my stone sheep. That was in the morning. I was heading up to get my ram, and I had spotted the ram the day before, way in the distance. That night, my cameraman got injured, and
That was not me.
Not Jesse. So then we went back to camp, and we were wondering, do we pack up? Do we head out? Or what do we do? And I just said, you know what? You stay at camp, rest up. I've got to get back in the hills. There was some animals I need to get a closer look at. So I'm going to bring some kind of self-filming gear, and I'm going to hike up early in the morning and just see what I can make happen. But knowing full well I'm on my own, it's not going to be an easy situation regardless of what happens. So I'm hiking up and covering ground as fast as I can because I have somewhere I want to be. And all of a sudden in the distance, I start hearing these wolves howling, and I could hear them setting up again in their positions. And I was like, I don't want to break off. I know where I want to get to start the day. And then I started howling back because they just wouldn't stop. And I was able to pull this one. It looked like a blonde female. She pulled up onto this one ridge and bed down on a ridge on an open rock face and sat there. And I have footage of her for probably 2.5, 3 minutes, just howling back and forth with me. And I was trying to howl to pull it in closer. It just wouldn't close the distance anymore. So I set up, take the shot. She actually ran off into the timber. I followed, tons of blood, rewatched the footage, like smashed the wolf, but ran off into thick timber in a section where I ended up not fully recovering the wolf, full disclosure. But we watched the footage, followed the blood trail, followed everything, and quite confident the wolf is deceased. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, well, I've spent enough time here. I marked the area where the wolf was, and then I started hiking straight up. And I mean, full tilt, hair straight back. Jesse, you've been with me when I'm motivated to cover ground, and I can cover quite a bit of ground.
And just for context, for every step that Joe takes, I have to take 3 just to keep up because he's a big man.
Yes, he is.
I got a good long stride, and I was putting it to use that day. And Yeah, so I had seen where there was a group of ewes and lambs, a nice group of ewes and lambs that had 4 rams with them that I'd seen from a distance. And I kind of had an idea of what direction they were going to be heading. It's kind of a migratory path where we were. It's not really somewhere they spend a ton of time. So they would have just been moving through. So I kind of had an idea where I wanted to get to try and cut them off to see if I could get a good look at them. So I basically sprint at, in hiking gear with your backpack on, way up to where I wanted to get to. And as I crest this one area, I spotted just the tops, the crowns of the ram's horns on the far side of this one face. And I managed to close into just over 2 kilometers of them. And then I started running out of cover. So I sat there and watched them for a little bit just to see what they were doing. I couldn't see the full bodies or their heads yet. And luckily they fed up and over towards me to where I could get a better look at them. I definitely at that point knew that the one ram was one I wanted to get a closer look at. I'll say that much at this point. And then the ewes and lambs came, and then I was right next to another big basin, and they kind of started going from left to right and looking like they were going to go over to the bluffs over the right and disappear over that into the areas beyond there. So I waited until they were more over to the right side, and then I kind of backed out a little bit, got my gear together, and I ducked down all the way through the draw, back up the other side, start climbing up the other side, out of sight, get to a point where I can peek over comfortably and look to see where they are. When I peek over, they had gone back to the left side. So I'm like, okay, grab my gear, go all the way back down, all the way back into the rocks on the left side, get there. And then I'm watching them, and they had hung up just on the left edge now at this point. I'm like, okay, maybe they'll come up towards me. Nope. For some reason, they hadn't spotted me at this point because they're still fighting. I'm watching them. They're fighting, they're scrapping, they're feeding. And then all of a sudden they start jogging at this point off to the right. And I'm like, man, did the wind switch? Did the wind, like, I'm still just under 2 kilometers from these guys. Like, it doesn't make sense to why they'd be running from me, but they start jogging to the right again. So I'm like, man, I was just over there. I really don't want to go back. But as you guys know, if there's a sheep over there, you're going. So I grab my gear again, and I'm running low on water at this point. Drop all the way down through the draw, back up the other side. At this point, like, they've been jogging. So I'm kind of like a climber's sprint going all the way up to the top of this ridge. And I finally get up to the top of the ridge, and I'm huffing and puffing, and my chest is heaving. And I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I got to do? I got to pull out some cameras so I'm ready to film. So I've got this little Insta360 thing that's on an extended arm. I tuck that in my backpack and turn it on. I get my phone out. I've got a little all-in adapter so it can quickly go on my spotting scope. I pull my spotting scope, I'll get it on the tripod. I do a little check-in interview. I'm like, hey guys, this is what's going on, yada, yada. Get my gun on the tripod or on my bipod so I can just like try and in my mind go, okay, what am I forgetting? What am I not forgetting? And at this point, I still don't know if the rams have gone out of the area or if they're still there. But the way things were going, if they were in the area, I was going to be heading out towards the end of this finger, and my wind would be almost quartered from right to left at a 45, somewhat in their direction. So not ideal. So if I did see them, it was going to be a quick shot, likely. So I'm like, okay, I have to be really careful. They could be feeding up towards me. Who knows what's going to happen here? And when I say quick shot, I mean, I'm going to have to get down, ID, try and film, do all of this stuff. So it's a little bit of pressure. So I'm starting to crawl over the ridges. And then finally I get to this one last ridge, and there's no rocks on this one, no cover. And it's just kind of a little bit of a rolling grass hill. And I'm crawling up to the edge, spotter in one hand with my phone on it and rifle in the other. And I look over, and 3 of my rams are feeding around this one rock at 436 yards. And behind the rock, all I can see is a lamb tip and the top kind of glimpse of the top of his horn sitting there. And this bugger had just bed down for the afternoon behind this rock. And as I'm seeing them, I realize there's no rocks around me. So I'm skylined a little bit. The clouds go away, blue sky comes out, and I have to just hit the dirt and lie down. And I'm like, I can't move anymore because there's 3 rams that are in plain sight. And then a group of ewes and lambs feed up and over towards me as well. So they're there. And I'm like, okay, my wind's got to be getting close to them. Stressful moment. But I mean, without dragging the story on too long, the ram eventually, the youngest ram of the group tries to bed down close to the big guy. I had my phone adapter on my spotter, and I'm trying to watch everything through there. And the big ram gets up, runs the little ram off. I was able to film it, freeze frame, and zoom in and confirm he's a minimum of 8 years old and well past the nose on both sides. Nice, big, heavy ram, beautiful animal. So in that moment, I knew that I was going to harvest him when he stood up. And I think it was 3.5 or 4 hours later, I was cramping, lying in a bit of a Jesse might get a kick of this, but it was a bit of a like a little bit of a divot where I was lying, and I couldn't really move, so I had to relieve myself at one point, and I kind of rolled over on my side, and I shimmied over to the one side, and I had to piss, so I pissed, and then I went back to where I was, and I felt it come back underneath me, which was not the best feeling. So I'm lying there in my own piss. I'm cramping all over, and I'm just waiting. Oh, and my phone starts dying, and I'm filming through my spotting scope. My phone starts dying. Now, fortunately, just before everything fell apart, my ram does stand up, starts feeding towards me, stops broadside at probably 415 yards. And as you guys will see when the episode comes out, I mean, it was just picture perfect. Picture perfect. I was able to get a perfect shot on him, dropped him in his tracks. Like, there was no doubt from the second the first impact hit, like he was done on the spot. Beautiful ram down. And yeah, I was able to, when I walked up on him, he only got bigger. Just one of those rams that I feel very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity to harvest. And yeah, I mean, the whole time it was a pretty cool experience. And as you guys know, last year I did take a younger ram. I think we're going to talk about that here a little bit, likely. But with this ram, after my experience last year, I was fully prepared. Even though I knew he was well past the nose, big, heavy ram. If he was an 8+, I was going to let him walk. So I was very, very happy to see he had an 8 annualized when he
did. That ram is absolutely perfect. He's dark cape, big old Roma nose. He's just gorgeous, eh?
That's one thing I noticed too that was just so beautiful about him, his coat. Like he's more pepper than salt. That's for sure. And just like almost like chocolate.
Yeah, he was like a dark chocolate, a beautiful kind of white face with some like little bit of like solid gray marbling through it. But then he also had like really golden horns. Like they were almost like a doll ram. And Kyle, you know what doll ram horns look like. So they're beautiful. And just a nice, healthy, fat animal. We cooked him up. We cooked a lot of them up in camp, took pictures of it all and everything. And everybody loved it, but just well marbled, healthy ram. He was with a good group of rams. And one thing that really made me feel good about it as well is right next to him, that hanging out was a group of ewes and lambs. And but like first, second year ewes in there, a whole bunch of them. So you feel good in a situation like that, taking an animal out of there. They're definitely healthy in the area. And yeah, that's a trophy I won't soon forget.
So what's the best part of it? Killing the sheep, self-filming, like all of it's a dream, right? Like you add all that together. It's amazing. But like what do you think about when I guess you're just thinking about the ram. You're not really thinking about the self-filming, but it just must be surreal, really.
Yeah, you know what, to be perfectly honest, the probably the coolest thing about this hunt, I mean, obviously harvesting a ram of that caliber is going to be amazing no matter what, but being able to do it on a true solo hunt for the day where I'm self-filming, that's something I don't get to do as much as I used to. Especially on these bigger hunts. When I'm doing a bigger hunt, there's almost always people with me. So to be able to have that experience on my own and sit there and really enjoy it. My camera died shortly after getting to the ram. So all I was able to do that day was kind of gut them, break them down, or get them set up. And then I couldn't do the full pack out and everything that day. But as you guys know, or as I've talked about quite a few times, my father passed away a while ago. And so when I'm in the bush, that's kind of like my moment where I get to have time with him. So like after the ram was down, I kind of sat and had my moment with the ram. And then it might sound cheesy, but I sat down and I had a really good talk with my dad. So that was pretty cool too. And but yeah, it's just one of those moments where you kind of, everything else just melted away. I sat there for, I thought it was 15 minutes, and I looked at my watch and it had been 2 hours.
Wow.
I was just sitting there next to him and I was in complete awe of the animal, of the experience, of the area, everything.
That's amazing, man. So let's dive into it a little bit. This is your second ram, and last year you harvested a gorgeous ram, totally legal, but a little on the young side, and got a little bit of flack on it. And I felt unnecessarily. We know that the narrative around it, right? Talk about that journey for you and what it was like, Joe, to sort of you're I guess, quote, an easy target because you are an influencer celebrity. Pick a name, pick a title, but people want to take shots at you at the best of times, let alone when you do something that maybe people don't necessarily approve of. So chat a little bit about that for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah. It was last year's hunt. That was my first ram. It's something I'd been on other hunts. I'd passed on rams that were likely legal because I wanted to make sure I harvested a good ram. And I made a mistake in the field. Well, I made sure he was a legal ram, but I didn't age him before I pulled the trigger. I'm not here to, I won't make excuses. I've never done an official apology. I feel like when you apologize, sometimes it's because you're looking for forgiveness. I made a mistake. That's something for me to own, and it's something for me to grow from. That's kind of how I've always approached everything I do. So I've never, done any of that other side of stuff. But the way the hunt went down last year, I was up. It wasn't a solo hunt. I had a cameraman with me who had done some whitetail hunts and black bear hunts, but again, unguided stone sheep hunt. I think we were day 8 on the hunt, and we had been watching a lot of rams or seeing rams. Every ram I had seen on the hunt was way back, like at probably at best just over 3/4, and like 7, potentially 8-year-old rams that were still way back. And I'd just been seeing a lot of short rams that were still quite old on the hunt, and I got in this mindset that all of the rams in the area were going to have really short annuli. And if I saw a legal ram based on full curl, it was definitely going to be an old ram. It was just an assumption I made based on what I'd seen on the hunt. On the day I shot my ram, we spotted 2 different groups of rams in the morning right by our tent. While I was getting water, there was a younger group and then a group that had 3 or 4 rams, 2 that were looked like big, heavy, mature rams. So looped around, got above them. I was only at 176 yards above them, so I wasn't far from them. And I came across 5 rams that were bedded. I was working on aging one of them through the spotter, and one of them had his head down. He was sleeping. He had his head down, and I was like, "Hey, I'll check that one out later, but I'm going to try and age this one that's got his head up right now." And while I was working on aging him, the ram I ended up shooting lifted his head, and I put the spotter on him right away. And both me and the camera guy were like, "Holy smokes, that guy's way past the nose." And in that split moment, I mean, looking back at it, I had all the time in the world. They didn't know we were there. Wind was in our favor. I was above him. I could have put the spotter on him and aged him. I had been talking all year about the importance of aging rams. And I looked and I thought, this guy's about 2 inches plus past the bridge of his nose. And I pulled my spotter off the tripod, threw my gun on the tripod, and I shot him. And that's what I did. And as soon as I walked up on him, I mean, when I pulled the trigger, ram went down. Again, nice shot. Ram went down, put him down in his bed. He stood up, went right back down. So I felt good about everything. And then I walked up on him, and I realized he was much tighter curl than I had thought because we were above. He was wide and everything. And I thought he was a deeper curled ram. And I went, oh, that's not a good sign right out of the gates. And then as soon as I put hands on him and I counted the annuli, his growth was like almost double from some of the other rams we've been seeing in the area. So like he was tight curled, but way past the bridge of the nose. And he was 6, or I guess 6.5, as people say. If you're trying to stretch it, 6.5, but a lot of people just go by the round number. So he was a 6-year-old ram. And that's what it was. Still a fully legal ram. I took him in for his CI, and like way past the bridge of his nose when we got stopped by the CO. The CO we saw actually said they, oddly enough, it didn't make me feel any better, but they said they wished more people shot based on full curl, because then it's a legal ram. They don't have to confiscate it. But yeah, no, it was a very young ram, not one that I would shoot again if I had the opportunity, but I did shoot it. That was the start of my sheep hunting career. That's not something that'll ever go away, but I'll tell you, from this moment forward, um, like even when I saw my big ram and I closed in on the one I shot this year, I knew he was way bigger, way heavier than the first ram I shot. And I knew without an inkling of a doubt, like I watched him for I don't know how long. And there was no chance in hell I was going to shoot him until I knew he was over 8. So it's one of those moments you take it for what it is, and you just grow from it. And that's kind of what I'm going to do with it.
Well, awesome, Joe, for this message that you're willing to share with us. And like, first and foremost, and for those listeners that maybe don't quite understand the system in British Columbia, around thin horns, there's a rule that to be illegal, you need to be one of two things. It needs to be mature, which has been 8 years of age or older, is one of the criteria. And the other one is the horn must be past the point of the nose when viewed perpendicularly. Now, don't use that as the official terminology. Look it up in the regulations. I'll say Kyle said on Talk is Sheep. I will take no accountability for that, but that's the gist of it. And so, as Joe said, it was 100% perfectly legal ram. And in fact, if you talk to anyone from the ministry, they're going to tell you that's the kind of ram they want you to shoot, as opposed to maybe an 8 or 9-year-old ram that's sub of the nose. And because what's happening is people are inaccurately aging them, thinking that they're 8 years old, and unfortunately they're 6 or 7, and they're not past the bridge of the nose. Hence, they're illegal and they're confiscated. So it's a problem we've had here in British Columbia. It's a bit of a challenging. Well, it's very challenging to do, but it's also controversial too, right? And certain jurisdictions have other rules that they go by, but that's the rules in British Columbia. So good on you, Joe, for showing, having this discussion, and it's kind of an awareness thing. And maybe it's worth discussing a little bit about why it's so important to shoot an older ram. Do you guys want to jump into that a little bit? I know a lot of our listeners know about that, but there's a reason that older rams are being encouraged to harvest, and the reason they don't want you shooting younger rams. So, Jesse, why don't you tell us the biology on that? Because you're the horn aging guy, providing that educational aspect.
Well, I mean, I'm not the expert by any means. I'm learning a lot as we're working on a sheep education course at the society, and I'm not the expert, but I am good at putting the right people in the right place at the right time, as to what I do a lot in my career. But yeah, there's a lot more things to consider with those killing those older sheep. Herd dynamics, like you said, Joe, in your story, there, a lot of people get the blinders on and just focus on, is it a legal ram, yes or no. They don't necessarily have that, wide angle view where they can see the herd and the herd dynamics. Is it a healthy herd? Is he a solo ram? Is it a band of rams? There's a big difference between if there's 3 hunters out there, they see 3 legal rams and take all of them, that's perfectly legal. But, what's the impact of that herd going to be when you remove those 3 rams from there? So in the scenario of your ram this year I think it was with 4 other rams or 3 other rams. It was with a group of rams.
3.
Yeah. And then there was, a big, I saw the footage of the herd, probably 6 or 7 ewes with a bunch of lamb. Like, it's a good, healthy herd. So pulling 1 ram out of there, that's probably the most mature ram. Now you're giving a chance of the younger rams to now breed. He's probably by that age, by 8, 9, he's, not only been a breeding ram, but he's also probably had time to mentor those younger rams, and they kind of know what they're doing a little bit. That's the other thing, is that those older rams will mentor, if you kill, if they don't have a chance to kind of teach the young guns what to do, they can, their chances of breeding goes down as well. So anyways, that guy's old enough that he's probably had his chance. He's mentored some guys on how to go through the rut and bullied them around a bit and how to treat the ladies, so they know what to do. So now you're kind of giving the genetics, and a chance to move on and to carry forward. So, but that to say that it's complex, and there's dynamics to take into judgment, or to take in as they don't just rely on the, is that a legal ram, and what that one ram is going to be, or the legalities of it. So that's one thing that we're trying to do with this new course that we're working on, is be able to give a broad perspective view excuse me, on sheep and health and dynamics, because they are not only a beautiful and iconic species, but they're also sensitive, and they're also very complex. So there's more to consider, and more aura around them that needs to take into, or bring into context with your decision making as a hunter. And that's what we're trying to do with this new course. I don't know how this became a plug for the new course, but we're working on it, and it's coming out soon. So it will give a more broad perspective, rather than just how to count annuli and what full curl means, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and one big thing, again, just to go back to what happened to me the previous year, that I've found, and rams in the same area, I mean, you would assume they have the same feed, they're likely going to have the same growth year to year, different things like that. So I kind of got into this. That was my assumption, like, that I made the previous year, was that all these other rams I had seen in the same area would have had the same type of growth. So this ram's part of that group. It's going to be, but it's just like anybody, it's like people, like there's different genetics, my ram that I took this year, his body was a full, probably third or more bigger than any of the rams he was with. But his annuli, like his growth, he had far better growth than these other rams had that he was with. Like, he was obviously eating well, or just had genetics, or who knows what it was. But the previous year, like, that's the way it happened. So I've learned that you can't just make that assumption that, okay, if the last ram you saw had really tight annuli, and, he was 7, but way back, if it kind of looks similar, but he's past the nose, he must be, 9, 10 plus. He could be a young ram that's just had some really good years, or just happens to have some really strong genetics in there.
Well, Joe, I want to commend you on your, I guess, your honest discussion about this, and using this a bit of a learning opportunity for sheep hunters. And I guess just the other thing to be clear is, you didn't do anything wrong, illegal, but this discussion about thinking about shooting an older ram is a good discussion to have. And you did your due diligence. You looked, he was 100% legal. There was no question about that. You knew that going in. It wasn't even a judgment call. But what's happening, and the thing that we really is biting us as a community is in British Columbia here, is that people are aging these rams saying they're legal, and they're not full curl, and they're shooting rams that aren't aged at 8 or older, and that's where we're running into problems. So at the end of the day, there's maybe somebody can question the, if we should be shooting younger rams like that, but there's nothing illegal. You can go and do that. But the one thing that you can't do is shoot something that's not 8 years old or older, or past the nose, one of those two.
Yeah, I think, ultimately, yeah, it was a legal ram. It's up to every hunter to make their own decision. As a organization, as a group, we're trying to, or you guys, I should say, are trying to push people towards a certain way that's science based, on what has more of a long-term vision for the species, and hoping, that for generations to come. I've got a son that's not 2 yet, and I hope he gets to have a moment similar to what I had, right? So I kind of look at it with that mindset, that it's not just about me and what I get to do in the next 5-10 years, but what my son's going to be able to do, what his children will be able to do one day. So yeah, I didn't do anything wrong, but for me, in the back of my mind, it's something that didn't sit well with me. And it's not something that I would do again. And it's one of those things too, like, if you've been in the mountains, if you've truly been in the mountains and watched them, you really appreciate the animals. And if I'm just going out for a meat animal, I can go shoot deer, things like that. But I'm perfectly happy going on sheep hunts and coming home empty-handed. I just want to be up there. And after this year, my kind of stone sheep baseline has definitely taken a step up every year. If you are successful, kind of your baseline for what you'd expect to want to pull the trigger again takes a big leap every time, and you learn from the experience, you grow from it. This time I definitely wanted them to be, I wanted them to be over 8 and if possible full curl. It was more age this time than it was based on full length. Like would I have shot a farther background if I was 100% confident that he was over 8 or 9 or plus? Yes. But one thing I will say as well that I've really learned to rely on, and I mentioned it, was the adapter for my phone on a spotting scope and filming. So I went back after that ram got up and chased the smaller ram and chased him off. The number of times I watched that video and I freeze framed it and I took screenshots and I studied it and I counted annuli and I waited till he took another step, tried to make sure there was no false annuli. I did that. I had 3 hours plus to do that while he was napping. And then once he got up, I still confirmed 2 more times in the spotter before switching to my rifle. So, but that adapter for putting your phone on the spotting scope, I can't tell you how much footage I have on my phone of rams that I've been using to look at them through it, and to be able to go back and freeze frame and not question your mind. Yeah, I think I saw it, but to be able to 100% see it on your phone and feel confident in it. I think that's a tool that like every sheep hunter should have in their backpack. And that's no sponsorship, no paid endorsement, but just from my experience, it's invaluable. And that is a piece of gear that I will 100% always have in the field with me.
Which one was that, Joe? Because I mean, like I've been with you on hunts and stuff, and I've, you worked with these scope adapters, and every scope's different, every phone's different. I mean, you have to buy the case for the phone that you have, but I mean, that one's magnetic and you just snap it on vertical or horizontal. You always shoot horizontal and never shoot vertical video. You snap it on and it's like instantly in the exact right spot. No matter, there's no fooling around or anything. The magnetic just clicks it right into spot. I have to say that to me is one of the best, just for that it's always in the perfect spot, ready to go at any moment.
It's a more expensive one. That one that I used on this trip was called the Allin, Ollin, the Allin adapter. And it's a little cumbersome. It's got a weird little kick out on the phone case for the magnets, but it clips on so quick. So it does. That's actually how I was able to film so quickly on my own. I've ran a few different ones over the years. I had another one called the phone scope adapter. That one takes longer to set up, but you can adapt it to any spotter or any binos or rifle scope. You can put it on any optics. And it's a cheaper adapter to any phone case. It's a little magnetic piece that sticks on the back of your phone case. So there's like 3 or 4 good options on the market right now. There's more budget friendly ones, but they're a bit more of a pain in the tail when you're setting them up, especially if you're in a time crunch. The All-in's probably the higher end on the budget and more specified to the specific optics and phone, but it definitely, for ease of use, it's hands down the best one that I've used for ease of use. And again, no sponsorship, no paid, nothing, just honest feedback.
Yeah, that was my question. You stole it. Good one, Jesse. Thanks. I use a different brand. I can't even think of the name of it right now, and I'm not going to call them out. But I didn't like it. I'm going to try the Oland. Good. And I've gone through. I did phone scope the first time. The thing with phone scope that's a pain in the ass is every time you switch phones, you got to go get a new adapter, and it's $100 or whatever. So. Or whatever, even more, I think. So anyway, I thought I'd try this other one. I didn't like it. It was okay, but it was a lot of Mickey Mousing around, and I like the concept of something that's instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's depending how much time you have and whatever. Everybody's preference is different, but that's the one I used and it worked great. So
I do have to say this is transitioning away from phone scope and footage stuff. I do have to say though, I went on my first sheep hunt this year. We don't need to talk about what happened. But I didn't come home with a sheep. And I've been on mountain hunts before. I got my goat and blah, 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 and it's like, a goat eats okay. But it's like, okay, I got a goat. I could probably go after other stuff. So I kind of had the mentality of like, once I get a sheep, especially stone sheep, then I'll kind of chill out and go hunt another species or something else. But after I tasted stone sheep, like that is a sheep worth killing every year. That's insane. It was so good.
Yeah. So Kyle, I don't know if you're aware, but Jesse actually came out for the second half of my hunt after I had taken the stone sheep. and some of the wolves, and he came up and joined me for the second half of my hunt so I could complete my caribou hunt. And when he showed up, I met him with the horns, and I let him check them out and everything, and then I cooked him up some fresh stone sheep. I think we had the tenderloins that night, actually.
Yeah.
And there was not a bad ounce of meat on that ram. I mean, from what I've eaten a bunch of it already because it's so stinking tasty. My wife and son love it too, but we got a bunch still in the freezer, and it's got to be one of the best table fares when it comes to bush meat, for sure.
Hands down by far.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't find bighorns like that. I've had bighorn before, and it's good, but yeah, there's something about thinhorn, and Dull's amazing too, but stone and Dull sheep are just, I don't know, there's something about them. Not sure what it is. So yeah. Amazing. So are we going to talk caribou? We're an hour in. So how are we doing for time? Do you want to talk caribou, or are we going to bring you back? Are we going to do part 2?
You guys tell me. I'm good on part 2. I'm good for kind of delving into that right now too. It's whatever makes you guys
Let's
happy.
do it. We're here.
Whew. Okay. So
right.
Anyway, Joe, I just want to say congrats on that ram, man. That thing is what an awesome old monarch. And I couldn't think of anyone more deserving. And then the humility and humbleness. And again, to share your story about, your experience last year, and good on you, man. So just, it makes me so happy to see a guy like yourself get a ram like that. So.
Thank you very much. It certainly means a lot coming from someone such as yourself, who's spent a lot of time in the hills and in a position that you are. It definitely means a lot. And just extremely fortunate to have taken that ram, and not something I would have expected this season. But definitely one of the highlights of my career up till now. And it might be time to focus on a different species of sheep for a bit, just because it's going to be tough to top that one for the next little bit, I think.
And awesome. I will say a little plug to the Salute to Conservation, February 22nd to 25th, Kyle? February
23-24
in Penticton, BC this year. And Kyle, I haven't told you, but John is working hard on that sheep right away, and I promised him that I'd get that sheep shown at the show. Center stage up on full mount. So if you want to see Joe's sheep, it'll be at the show for sure.
Yeah.
And Joe's going to be at the show, right?
I will absolutely be at the show unless you guys have changed the plans and locked the doors on me. But,
so we got a star-studded lineup of people for the show, and of course, front and center is yourself. And we haven't really talked about what you're going to talk about. Have you got any thoughts about what kind of, you're going to be doing a couple seminars for us? And love to, any thoughts on what you might want to present on?
We've kicked around a few different ideas. I think I'll do some outreaches on my socials and see what people are interested in hearing about while we're there. One thing I'm always kind of partial towards is, through my entire career, through athletics and everything, I've been trained a bunch on, the difference between locker room talk and media room talk. And I do think the one thing that we as hunters struggle with nowadays is understanding what conversations we should be having amongst ourselves and other hunters behind closed doors, and what kind of unified front we should maybe be putting in the media. So one thing, whether it's going to be a full seminar on it or at least partial discussion, I would like to bring up some of the conversations on, where we draw that line. My opinion isn't that people should change the dialogue. We shouldn't hide what we do. We shouldn't be ashamed of what we do. We shouldn't sugarcoat things, but we should present it in a way that makes it palatable to the non-hunter. So I think that would be a discussion I'd really like to discuss, and bring up and see what kind of feedback we get to that. But in general, I'm open to multiple different discussions while we're there.
Right on. Well, anyone that has any doubt about you talking about that subject, just do a Google search and go CBC Joe Eppele cougar hunting. It's going to come up. And that interview, I didn't even know it at the time. Somebody said, check this out. I'm like, holy shit, who is this guy? We need this guy to talk more about hunting and what we do. So no, you do a good job great job of articulating it, Joe. And it's always a strong message. And anyone that's not following Joe on social, just look at the post that you did about wolves last couple weeks ago or a month ago. And I'm that's the message we need to share. Like that.
Yeah.
How do we communicate that better? I'm like, just whatever Joe does, do that.
I don't know I deserve that. I just know that the opposition, the other side, the side that's trying to shut us down, they're really good at spinning things in a way that communicates really strongly to the middle 70 to 80% that doesn't know where they stand. Because there's probably 10% plus on either side, give or take, that's really polar in their positions. Our side, we kind of go, I want to speak the way I speak because that's how I've always talked, and you got to deal with it. Whereas the other side's really good at speaking to that 70% in the middle that doesn't know where they go. And that's the group that's going to really dictate where our rights as hunters goes in the future. So we kind of, I think it's important to communicate effectively and properly to that middle group, sometimes more so than the in between. So yeah, I took wolves on the hunt, but I tried to spin it in, it's not an anti-wolf story, it's a pro-caribou story. And that's kind of the direction, because the other side's just talking about, oh, if you shoot wolves, it's just an anti-wolf thing. And I'm like, no, there's so much more to predator management than just that. But I think as hunters, we know that, so we take it for granted, and we don't feel like we have to discuss that and bring it up, because to us, it's so obvious you don't even have to mention it. So most people don't mention it. But unfortunately, to that other group, which is the largest group of individuals in the province, in the country, they don't know that. So when they see our posts, it's really easy for them to grab it, do a one-liner post that's polarized in the opposite direction, and we're vilified, even though our intentions are, authentic, are genuine, like we're trying to do the right thing. I really think that we fall short sometimes, and I'm saying we because I'm not perfect in it either. But I do think that at times we shoot ourselves in the foot because we're doing the right thing. We have the right intentions behind it. We're just not communicating it properly all the time.
Yeah, well said. All right, we talking caribou or what? Let's
Well,
hear it.
I was just going to say that the transition is, you talk about how wolves. Why can't I say
woofs.
that?
It's woofs.
Woofs are pro caribou. And, that's, I think John said it, you killed those 3 wolves. And then was it 5 days later? We saw the first caribou in that valley after the wolves were gone. You were there with wolves, no caribou. Remove some wolves, all of a sudden caribou start showing up because the wolves aren't around. So doesn't get much more pro caribou than that.
There were 6 or 7 wolves in the pack. We removed 3. And then the other ones left the area because we did not see them anymore. And then, immediately, well, not immediately, but after a period of a few days, we started seeing caribou come through the area again. And I mean, the amount of wolf sign we saw when we went in there was unbelievable. Like, it was alarming, and it felt really good. And again, I understand the hypocrisy of I'm in there trying to shoot a caribou, and I kill a wolf, and I say I'm doing the good thing because I just killed a caribou killer. Meanwhile, I've got a caribou tag in my pocket, right? So I understand the hypocrisy of it and how that looks. But remember, a pack of 7 wolves or 6 wolves are going to go through a lot of caribou in a season, and they're set up across this entire corridor in a web, and they're opportunist killers. So if a group of caribou come through and they can kill multiple caribou, they will. It's just the way they operate. And that's going to have a much larger impact than me being in there and harvesting one bull and removing him. And that's, so yes, it's a hypocritic reason or to kill the wolves, but I do like to think that did have a positive impact on the number of caribou that'll be able to flow through there. And one thing that I've always said is, caribou are so sensitive, and the process or the attempts to reintroduce these caribou into different areas, so expensive, so challenging, and not overly successful to try and reintroduce caribou. But if you wipe every wolf, and I'm not saying we should, but if you wipe every wolf out of that area and build the caribou numbers back up, you could airdrop 5-10 wolves back in that area, and that population is going to be healthy like that. They will bounce back. So I think it's one of those situations where you got the bully and you got the victim, and we got to pick which side. And I'm in that situation. Like, let's help the victims here. Let's help stand up for the caribou, and the wolves aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, well said. So tell us about this caribou hunt.
Yeah, tell you about the caribou hunt that I mean, we were seeing everything but caribou for a lot of the hunt. We saw some good moose too, but it was a challenge. We weren't seeing much of anything when it comes to caribou. We were seeing some good sheds and old sign. We knew we were kind of in the right area, but yeah, after we picked Jesse up, we got back out there. The wolves had kind of cleared out, and then we saw a decent bull, a young bull with two cows. Were the first caribou we saw come through the area. Actually, no, that's a lie. I had seen one really like immature bull with two cows previously. Um, and then we kind of went in, closed in on these ones that Jesse and I saw and got a good look. But again, so they have to be 5 above the kicker, which the kicker is kind of the rear point halfway up the main beam on a caribou. So 5 points, legal points above the kicker, or 6 up top if there's no kicker present. And the one bull we saw, he had 4 up top on both sides. Nice big frame, but just didn't have the 5th. He had good kickers as well. And then we've been hunting one day and we weren't seeing anything. We spotted some moose off in the distance, and Jesse's shaking his head right now because
How far was that distance, Joe?
3.64 miles away. And I talk in miles and that bugs Jesse a lot, but it was 3.64 miles away. I know that because I knew the exact location they were. They were by a bit of a landmark, and I could pull it up on my Onyx, and I measured it. I'm like, only 3.64 miles away. We've got 2.5 hours of daylight left, Jesse. And mind you, there's no trails. It's uneven, nasty ground with like patches of 7-foot tall willows and swamps and marshes and hills. And Jesse looks at me and goes, and there was a nice bull in there. And Jesse goes, there's a ridge right there. We could probably close to that ridge and get a better look. And in Joe's mind, that means tighten up your boots. Let's go full tilt and see if we can get to within 300 yards of these things. So, and maybe I'll let Jesse take over the story there for a little bit.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was. He's like, I'm not sure if that's the one that we want, but it is a bull. We have been seeing stuff, and it's, and you talk about pressure of episodes. We're here to get an episode. Now I've been, flown in, and the other camera guy, injured guy, had to go home. So it's like there's an extra expense. Now we have to deliver an episode. We're not seeing caribou. We do see a really good moose. This could be the chance to do it. So yeah, I said, oh, let's close the distance, make sure it's the one. In my head, I'm like, yeah, we go down a kilometer and close the distance and just see what he's like. And so I'm getting some shots and blah, blah, blah. And then Joe's just gone. Like, not just gone, but like running. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure we'll collect. And so I'm like starting to walk faster, and then I'm starting to like skip down over the moss and then kind of like sliding down the banks, and he's still keeping that distance and starts pushing it beyond. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're just still going. And this went on for, I think we did it in under an hour.
Yeah, it was 46 minutes.
46 minutes, 5 kilometers, guys. Through buckbrush, through like there's no trails. At one point it was kind of fun. I don't know if Joe knew it, but we were going up this ridge, so I knew the spot that we were going to, but I lost him, and I started to like veer off a direction, kind of this little drainage that didn't have buckbrush. I'm like, oh, this is easy walking, and then I see Joe off to my left, like 100 yards, like going up to. I'm like, okay, and I dip back into the buckbrush, and I'm just going up, and then I'm just like. Yeah, it's I've got a job to do. I'm a camera guy, but I've got my head down, blah, 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 and I get up to him, just huffing and puffing, hold my breath, and just roll the camera, get an update, blah, 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 and blah, blah, and then Joe takes off again to the next little ridge point. And at that point, I kind of like, I'm supposed to go, but I was like, I kind of said, fuck you, Joe. And I dropped a knee and I took a sip of water. So I was like, I need water. I need something. And then I could hear him in my mic. Like, Jesse, let's go. Like, oh, okay, let's go. And then I get up behind him, and we get to the ridge, and we get there. And what do you see, Joe?
When we get to the ridge, we didn't see anything. at first, to be perfectly honest. And that's kind of why. So when I started going, the decision in my mind was that if I'm covering any ground, we're going farther and farther away from camp. And tonight's going to suck no matter what at this point, because we're going to be going through swamps, marshes, everything in the dark. So this is going to suck. So I better make it worth it. That's basically the decision in my mind. So I'm like, if we're going, we're going to see this animal. So like full tilt sprint. And I kid you not, like me, 6'8", striding. I kid you not. When there was no bush, I was legitimately like jogging downhill.
Oh, I know.
And then, we get up there, no bull. This is where I make a big screw up. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do some cow calls. It's been a while since I've done some cow calls, but I'm going to do some cow calls, see if I can pull this bull out. I do some cow calls, not expecting anything because my cow calls are very unpolished. And all of a sudden we hear an antler pop in the trees just off to our right. And both Jesse and I hear it. I'm like, holy smokes, there's a bull in there. Now, if I had a brain between my ears, I would have knelt down in the willows that we were in and waited for this bull to walk out and show himself. Instead, I'm like, oh, we're running out of daylight. We're going to push in on this thing. So we push in towards where he was. We ended up spotting a bull and 2 cows off by a little lake. So we closed in, got within 400 yards of them. Good bull, but if I shoot a bull in this area, we're giving up 2 days minimum out of the hunt to pack him out. And at that point, I had him in the crosshairs, and I just said, I'm not willing to pass up on, 2 days of caribou hunting to shoot this moose right now. So we pass up on him, and Jesse's super happy with me for getting all the way in there. And then, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, we closed the distance. We got this moose in the crosshairs. I did the right thing all the way through. As we're hiking out, we ended up getting back to camp at like 1 or just after 1 in the morning. And it kind of dawns on me, wait a second, that bull, if he was in that position, was not the bull I heard popping in the trees. And we knew in the area, I know from what I had seen previously, there was a big boy. Like, you shoot him and you give up 3 days if you have to out of the hunt to take him out of there.
He was a book boy.
Yeah, book bull for sure. Bigger than the one I took on my previous hunt, if you've seen this guy right here behind me. And there was a smaller bull in the area. So when I look back at it, and I know we're on another tangent, but when I look back at it, the smaller bull with the 2 cows by the lake was a little guy, which means the big bull, the monster guy, was popping trees on his way out to come to us when I was cow calling. And in my boneheaded stubbornness,
we ran away from him.
Let's go another 600 meters in the opposite direction of camp instead of staying here and shooting the bull we want to get.
So yeah, we got back. We were hiking through the snow and the rain, and but it was a long night to get back, but we eventually did. And then I think the weather started to close in on us after that.
Yeah, so this is kind of the kick yourself in the arse kind of moment. I said I didn't want to give 2 days out of the hunt to pack a moose out of the bush because I was on a caribou hunt and that was my focus. The next day we wake up in the morning and we go up to a different ridge to try and do some glassing, and the fog rolls in on us so thick. Jesse and I are sitting next to each other, and I couldn't tell you how many fingers he was holding up. It was just disgusting and cold and nasty. And I made Jesse sit out there until like visibility, I kept saying it's going to improve, and it got worse. Every 20 minutes, I'd say, if it gets any worse in 20 minutes, we'll pack up. And then I think it was probably close to 5 hours. We sat there, and then finally we said, okay, back to camp. 2 full days socked in with fog, and where we had been sitting at that point, we were at quite a high elevation. And 2 full days socked in with complete like pea soup fog in camp. I've already pushed the hunt a week past its projected deadline. Jesse's up there. We're checking the forecast on our apps on our phone, and it's not showing any improvement. Like, this hunt's over. We're up here burning daylight. Our wives are mad at us for no reason at this point. We should be at home. And I'm in my mind like, Kate, how can I convince Jesse to just keep sticking this out? How can I tell my wife I'll make it up to her when I get home? And how can I tell the network not to worry about this racking up bill and everything? Like, I know I'm getting myself in hot water. And finally, the one night, I'm like, Jesse, we're going to wake up tomorrow. And the plan is just to start hiking up, and we're going to go and try and call a bull moose in. And realistically, we'd have to pull a bull moose into probably 40 yards to ID and get a good shot. So I'm like, we're going to go out to some areas where we've seen these moose, and we're going to try and pull a bull moose into 40 yards. We just could have shot that other moose and wasted 2 days packing them out because we just wasted 2 days hanging out at camp. But we're going to make the most of it. We're going to get an episode. There's no chance you're going to be able to find a caribou in this unless you just randomly pick a rock and the caribou bumps into that rock. So, like, our moods and our vibe, if you will, was like at boot level.
Yeah, we got up that morning hoping for some clearing, but it was like, I remember unzipping the tent and I'm like taking my morning piss. I'm just like, oh, it's just like worse. It's thicker. Here we go. Let's just go move our legs. That was my expectation. Like,
yeah, like
let's just move.
Maybe there's a blind deaf animal that we can bump into. And we're hiking, and in my mind, it's 100% wash of a day. We're just going to get out and hike just to see what happens, just so we're not sitting in the tent again. And as we're going, we just start kind of climbing and gaining elevation a little bit just to get to this one plateau we wanted to go check. Had a nice swamp where, like, that one where those two moose had actually been. So we're going over there, and probably around 8:15, so we'd been hiking for maybe 2+ hours, we start seeing, like, it's thick, but we saw this like faint sliver. I'm like, that almost looks like blue in that gray chunk up there. Yeah, okay, let's keep climbing. So we just started gaining elevation, and we got to this one kind of base of this pretty steep mountain, and we could almost start seeing like silhouettes, and it looked like, okay, maybe the fog sunk down enough that there might be some visibility if we go right to the top, to the crest of this mountain. So
my mood changed in that too, because like as a camera guy, you know, dealing with moisture and cameras and lenses is, I mean, it's doable. It's just, you have to manage things and you have to keep things dry and you have to check the lens to make sure it's not fogged up. And like this was thick enough fog that you're just inside a cloud. So there's moisture everywhere. So, you know, I was prepared for all of this. And then all of a sudden it's like, did you just see blue, Joe? Because I just saw blue. Can we maybe like go up into the clearing? I was like starting to get a little too excited just from a like, also we haven't seen the sun in 2.5 days, and to get up there and then it's like, oh man, we could go and we could like hunt the mountains and be up above it, and I could just like film and not worry about all this moisture. And then yeah, we saw the silhouettes and then we started to break through, and it's just like, oh my god, this is actually going to happen. We're going to go up into the mountains instead of sitting down in the foggy swamps. This is going to be amazing. We're spend the whole day on the mountains. It's going to be awesome.
And if anybody who's ever skied, any of you listeners at home, or Kyle, like, I believe you ski, like, you know, when you're going up the chairlift and sometimes like you're at the base of the mountain and it's just a foggy, rainy, nasty day, and all of a sudden you come through the top and it's like crisp bluebird, holy crap, I forgot my sunscreen kind of moment. That's what it felt like. Like, we're hiking along and I checked my watch. It was 9:20 in the morning. It was like you could taste the difference in the air from one step to the other. It was just like this kind of boiling fog level that went out. And as soon as you crested it, whole new world, whole new hunt. Like, the grass is dry, the sun's out, it's blue skies, it's warm, your clothes aren't like damp, you don't have those little dew beads everywhere. And we kind of stop and I'm like, holy smokes, like, this is real. And you could see, I have a video of it on my phone, the fog was rolling and it was lapping up and down on this ridge where we were, like a wave. It would come up and then it would pull back, come up. And I'm like, holy smokes, like, we're actually gonna be able to hunt the tops. Maybe the caribou have pushed up to the tops and they're hanging out in the tops too, where there's visibility. There's a hope for today. And all it was a glimmer of like a maybe. So like we're tickled like 5-year-olds that had just been handed ice cream cones. And we're going along and I'm like, Kate, this is gonna happen. Like, we can hunt the whole day. And I kind of pull out my phone, pull out my maps. I'm like, this is where we want to head to. This is what we're going to do. These areas should all be above the fog line. We should have visibility. So we start making our way around this one kind of shoulder, and it goes into a bit of a draw. So we're making our way around and we stop and I do some glassing. And I'm like, yeah, I knew there had been some old trail, like game trails above here and everything. So I glass. I'm like, yeah, nothing in this basin. Let's keep going. And all of a sudden we're making our way across, and you know, like, the spidey senses tingle sometimes. And I stop and I look up and there is a caribou skyline, like picture perfect. You could not script it better. perfectly skylined on the ridge, blue bird sky behind it. And I look and naked eye, I'm like, caribou, binos up, boom, it's a bull. I look back, I'm like, Jesse, caribou. And it's a bull. And Jesse's eyes are like pie plates. Like, I don't know how the whites in his eyes didn't scare the caribou off because he was so like, holy excited. And I dropped to the ground, pull my spotter up.
Joe, how far was he roughly?
So at that point, I think I can't remember. So I was watching the video. At one point, I say he's at 500 yards, but
Okay.
I think he was just shy of 400.
Yeah, just under 400, I think you said.
Yeah. So I think he was. I think I might have. Yeah. So I think.
And he saw us. He was staring right at us.
But we were well below him, and we were in kind of solids but neutral tones, so like tans and greens. So we kind of blended in really well with the ground we were in. But he stopped. He looked at us, and we kind of froze, and then he went back to feeding. So I'm like, okay, spotter out on the tripod, and I'm looking, and on the one side he's got he's got the kicker, but he only had 4 up top. And I'm like, oh no. Or no, I don't even know if he had the kicker on that side. And then all of a sudden the other side I look, 5 up top, but I couldn't see whether or not he had a kicker because he was positioned. All of a sudden he turns and I'm like, Jesse, he's got a kicker. Like, he's a legal bull.
Yeah, I remember hearing in my ear because I have earpieces in with his mic. He goes, he's legal bull. That's pretty funny. So I'm like, okay, shoot him.
But I'm like, yeah, I've watched the video now. I take my time. I pull everything out, get my scope dialed. I was not messing around. Long story short, I get set up, and
well, while you're getting set up, it's kind of funny. I'm from behind filming, so I'm trying to capture him getting ready, and then I'm up to the caribou. I'm trying to anticipate, and like I want to get the kill shot when it's happening. And he's sitting down there, and I hear in my piece, he goes, earplugs, and he's like fumbling with the bag. I'm like, are you putting earplugs in? Shoot the damn thing. What are you doing, Joe? And he's like fumbling with the bag. He's like getting his earplugs. I'm like, oh my God, this caribou is going to run away.
But yeah, I will admit I was getting my earplugs out of my bag. So like I went into my Kestrel, got all my info, dialed my scope, had everything set up, scopes leveled on the bipod, spotters on the tripod. I confirmed again he's legal like 3 times. Because silhouetted, you never know. Like, sometimes things can kind of overlap. And I was like, last thing I want to do is make a mistake. So I confirm he was legal, go back to my gear, then look through the spotter again, confirm he's legal again. And if I shoot a 300 PRC, and it's got an aggressive muzzle brake on it. So you're not going to, I've shot that sucker without earplugs before. I go on enough hunts a year where it's like, if I want to be able to hear in 3 years, I got to wear earplugs. So I'm messing around with my earplugs, throw them in, but yeah, I get down, perfect shot. It actually blew the top of his heart off. Went in the one side, blew the top of his heart off. He made it like 4 or 5 steps. Then he did one backward step and just beds down, or not beds down, hits the dirt though, but like perfectly silhouetted, still on this ridge line, bluebird skies behind him. Like,
just a big caribou antler, like a flag come to me at the top of the ridge line, just like no doubt.
And then if you tune in and watch the episode, you'll get to see a 6'8" man turn into a 2-year-old kid at Christmas in the blink of an eye. Because after that, I jump up and I am so giddy. I run over. I think I gave Jesse a big hug and I flopped around on the ground, and it was just such an emotional roller coaster. Here I am, wake up in the morning, you think the hunt's going to go nowhere. You're 2 days into just bad weather. Then all of a sudden you get a glimmer of hope, and you're like, at least we have a glimmer of hope. Break the fog line, get in the fog. I'm like, at least we can hunt today. It's not going to be a waste of a day. But in your mind, you're like, what are the odds of actually, putting this together? We've barely been seeing caribou out here yet. It was 9:52 when I pulled the trigger, and I'm talking to the camera. The caribou's already on the ground. So in 30 minutes, we went from being in thick fog, no visibility, to bull on the ground in the perfect spot. Like, just, you couldn't have painted a prettier picture. Like, just gorgeous country. And then to go up and recover him, and it was just such a cool, beautiful hunt. I'll say, he's not a record book caribou. He's a great caribou, but he's not a record book caribou. But I said it on camera too. I was like, he might as well have been a world-class, like, world record caribou. I couldn't have been any more excited about it. That hunt, when I pictured, and I mentioned I wanted to do a caribou hunt for quite a while now, when I pictured a mountain caribou hunt, I got every ounce, every little bit of exactly what I wanted out of it. And the way it finished too was just, it was just perfect. I couldn't have planned a better hunt. So for me, it's about the experience. It's about the hunt. Obviously, the goal is always trying to take a mature class animal. But it doesn't have to be the biggest animal in my books. Like just a good mature animal and a quality hunt to me, I'll take that over a huge trophy any day. So, um, yeah, we had a ton of fun. It was a blast.
And there, I mean, we're getting close to the rut, the caribou rut. So I mean, and that's what I've heard about caribou, is that, you know, if you get a rutted out caribou, it's almost not even worth trying to salvage or eat. But we ate some of that guy out in the field, and and I remember when we were processing him too, I'm like, does not smell ruddy at all. This smells like nice and clean, and yeah, he was tasted delicious.
That was part of the reason, Kyle, you got your hand up. I'll let you go in a second. But part of the reason why we actually did go and switch to moose for that one little bit is everybody said, it was funny. Everybody goes like, hard date. If you shoot a caribou after the 17th, it's going to be garbage. But we hadn't seen any rut activity from any caribou yet. But they're like, they'll be rutted, they'll be nasty. Shoot a caribou after the 17th. This, that, and the other. But yeah, so we had decided. For me, I'm big about bringing the meat home. Yeah, like that bull, no stink to him. Cooked a bunch up at camp, delicious. Um, I did do that whole Steve Ranella meat eater, eat the fat out from behind the eyeball. And I will tell you, I took a little pinch at first, and then I went in like 2 fingers knuckle deep and dug a whole bunch out after that and ate a bunch. Like, it's tasty. But yeah, I've cooked it for my wife, cooked it for my son, I've cooked it for some other friends, and now like my son, he comes to the freezer. He loves wild game meat. And he goes to the freezer and he tries to open the freezer and he goes, Kebu, Kebu, Kebu. Because I've cooked it for him twice since I've been home. But he does. And like if I pull meat out, he's like, oh, Kebu. And I'm like, yeah. So I'll cook him up some for dinner. So he definitely wasn't rutted. He wasn't stinky. Like maybe if you shoot them in dead rut, they're bad. But so far, with my extensive one caribou experience, delicious.
I had the same thing. Like right on the verge of the rut. He was running around with the cows, but I think we just got it early enough. And, you know, by far, that's probably my wife's favorite wild meat.
Yes.
It's not mine. I preferred the sheep, but that's a close second for sure. So yeah, love caribou. And what I was gonna say, one of the points I wanted to make is that, you know, how many sheep hunts or mountain hunts have ended where you know there's bad weather, like you guys had, and like, well, what's the point, right? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
You don't leave your tent, and that just goes to show you that you're never going to kill something sitting in your tent. You might kill something like a really nice caribou if you get out of your freaking tent and go for a walk, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I've had hunts end that way. I've had hunts where I've packed up and been like, yeah, there's a storm rolling in. We got to get out of here, that kind of thing before. And to be perfectly honest, in my mind, I thought that's where this hunt was going. And that's kind of why that one morning when we woke up, I wasn't ready to throw the towel in quite yet. And I just said, you know what, I got itchy feet. We got to go hiking today. And lo and behold, picture perfect finish to a great hunt. No, it was a ton of fun. There was a few more interesting things that happened after that. You know, the tax man showed up and tried to put a bit of pressure on us. We're processing the caribou, and we had a big stomper grizz start pushing in towards us.
oh well, nice.
But
Did you get it on camera?
we got the grizz on camera. Yeah, I got some footage of them, but just the way the wind was going, we were able to because they're big stinking animals, and we were really high up. So we took meat, we stashed it in the rocks, we urinated all around it. We piled rocks on top of it and covered it up. I took the gut pile and the scraps, put them in a different area that was a more prominent spot, sliced the gut pile, left it kind of for bait, pull it that direction while we stashed everything out. We spread the rest out in multiple different stashes too. That way, if the grizz did find one, we'd be able to recover some of the other stuff. But we must have just had a horseshoe up somewhere, because we got back there the next day to recover the rest, because that was towards the way it all worked out. We had to come back the next day to recover the remainder of it, and nothing, still to that point, nothing had been touched, like not even the gut pile.
Nice.
So
Wow.
something was going in our favor there, because I thought for sure we are going to lose at least one game bag, but we pulled it all out of there, and Yeah, it worked out well.
We pulled it all out of there.
I was just going to say a big thanks, because Jesse hauled a lot. I had an extra hauler back. So he had his camera bag on his backpack, and I think he thought he was safe. But back at base camp, I had a meat hauler waiting. So that the next day when we went back in to grab some more, I kind of looked over at Jesse and I was like, "You're running bare bones camera today, and here's the backpack." And but ear to ear grinning, like, "Absolutely, let's go." And I think you matched me. You matched me pound for pound on the pack out for the final pack out. So
How far were you from camp? How far do you have to pack them back to camp? Roughly, give or take.
I'm trying to remember how far back it was. I think we were
I don't remember. It was all blur. It was all painful blur.
I know how far we were when we went after the moose, because I distinctly like checked the distance, but I can't actually tell you how far we were from caribou to camp. I'd have to look that one up. Far enough, my knee still hurts.
Yeah, that was a good one. But there's something that just feels so good about that weight. It just, and I trained all year for my sheep hunt and stuff and carried stuff around and whatever. But when you have that like meat weight in your bag, it's especially when you have 100 pounds of it, it's almost like, and I know people that talk about it, but it's almost like a what do you call that, like spiritual flogging or whatever, those guys that like whip their backs and stuff as a spiritual journey. It's just like that like torturous journey that just feels so right, like that you're earning it and that you're doing it, and you're also giving justice to that animal.
It's a weird duality, because it's like physically you're loaded down completely, but like emotionally and mentally the weight is off of the hunt, because you've completed your mission, your journey of harvesting an animal. So like there's weight off but physical weight on, but it's like this weird strange fulfillment of hiking out. But one thing I've said, and people think I'm kind of crazy for it, is I truly love the pack out. And Jesse, you seem to truly love the pack out too, but the truth is, like, as a hunter, we all only have so many heavy pack outs left in us, either because for one reason or another, there's going to be a day where we're not able to pack that meat off the mountain. We're not going to be able to go up to those same places and do all of that. So it's like you have to enjoy that struggle when you have it, because I guarantee, one day, if you're sitting there on the couch and you're not able to get up there on the hills and do it, you're going to be missing moments just like those. So you got to soak it up while you can, even the shitty stuff.
You're talking about the pack out. I couldn't stop laughing. I had to mute myself. When we killed our caribou, one of my buddies was helping us with the pack, and he killed his the day before, a couple days before, whatever it was, and the two of us were packing back. So we're crossing this area, and it was really slick. You could tell there was some rocks, and it had some moss on it. And I went to cross it. Actually, it was frozen because it was late season, right? I went to cross it, and I'm like, okay, I just walked around it. Well, this guy's buddy of ours, and he's just absolutely careless, and he just walks straight across it, and he just goes down like a rock. And of course, we're like heavy, like 100 pounds, right? And he's like, "Ah!" Just starts screaming. And we thought for sure he'd broken a leg, right? He just like and actually in the end it turned out that he did crack ribs, but he was,
oh jeez.
But it just, it was just like so obvious, don't step there, especially with a heavy pack. And he just went zooming straight across. I'm like, yeah, sure enough, down. I feel bad because he obviously was in a lot of pain, and like for months too, because it was cracked ribs, but it was the funniest thing to watch.
Yeah, man, those packs are, I remember just one, we were sitting down having a break, and I remember I just went to go up and the pack just pulled me over. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just roll around. But I was like, I might not get up. This thing's so flipping heavy. I got it, but it was like, okay, yeah.
I remember that specific moment. We were in the buckbrush on that one last kind of incline, but yeah, it got to the point where you're bagged, you're tired, and you're looking at spots that you're like, I could maybe take a seat there and get a quick rest, but like that means I have to get up again.
Right?
Is it worth it? Because it's becoming so laborsome to try and get back on my feet after sitting down, or you sit on a rock. Like there's a rock that's the right height. You're like, I can sit on it, your ass will fit on it, but your bag doesn't, so it like pulls you over backwards kind of thing. So you're like, after a while, you kind of just do the hands on the knees, catch your breath, and keep going. But
Yeah.
that was a good
Awesome. What a great story. Well, so much for our hour of chit chatting. We
Jeez.
turned this into the
Oops.
better part of 2 here, but Joe, awesome. Jesse, this was a fun one. Just so cool to relive it, and it's fresh. I feel like I got 100 questions for you, so we're gonna have to do this again next week, Joe. That's the bad news. The good news is you're off the hook for the rest of tonight. So, but no, congratulations to you, Joe, and Jesse. Congratulations to you to be part of that and to catch it on film. And I cannot wait for the episode. It's or episodes, I guess, but certainly this episode is going to be epic. So
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. It was fun reliving it a little bit. And I didn't know if Jesse was going to be on the call or not. Jesse, I'm glad you were on the call. It was kind of fun reliving it a bit. I'm sure you're sick of my face by now, but it was a great time out there. And yeah, I learned a lot from the whole process, and yeah, ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad I was here too. Thanks for inviting me, Kyle. It was good to relive it, especially when it's just that little bit. It's still fresh enough that it's still all there, and you can remember all those small details. So it was good.
Yeah.
Awesome, boys. Thanks again, Joe, for just everything that you do and for being on the podcast, and can't wait for the show. Any plugs on the show, or where do people want to go to check stuff out? Let's where should they go to check your stuff?
Yeah, let's give her a plug. Obviously, first and foremost, it's available on Wild TV up here in Canada. So Canadian listeners, Wild TV, you can get on Wild TV or the Wild TV app, which is available in Canada and the US. I think the code's Big Joe, and you get like a full year subscription for $30. You can binge watch any Wild TV content, all seasons of The Edge. And then also in the US, because you guys do have quite a few listeners south of the border, we're on Pursuit Network or Pursuit Channel and Cowboy Channel as well. So we are available linear in the US, linear in Canada, and through the app in both countries. Seems like a lot of people are really pivoting to the app these days for that kind of Netflix binge kind of fix. I don't know that you guys want to watch that much of me, but you can if you want to.
Yeah, right on. Awesome, Joe. And socials, where do they go? Just
social. You can go ahead and follow me. It's Joe_Eppele, so EPPELE, and that's it. So just at Joe_Eppele. You can follow me on Instagram. Yeah, you'll see a lot of me, my stuff. You'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I always said I wasn't going to be one of those parents, but you will see a lot of my boy on there as well. Mostly just because he's just so much fun and he loves the outdoors now. So I got to get him on.
Yeah. Super stoked. Can't wait for it. And come check Joe out in person, February 23rd, 24th in Penticton. We're going to start selling tickets on that in a few weeks, and we can all hang out and have a few whiskeys and shoot the shit, talk sheep. Be fun.
Sounds like a time to me.
Let's do it.